Alrighty. Hello, all, and welcome to the River Falls Public Library. My name is Olivia, and today I am joined by best-selling author Abby Jimenez. In addition to writing books, Abby is also a Food Network champion, the founder of Nadia Cakes Bakery, and a motivational speaker. Today, Abby's here to discuss her contemporary romance novels, the latest of which is called Life's Too Short. Thank you for being here, Abby. And just to get us started, can you tell us when you first started writing or what made you decide to start writing books?
Yeah, so first, thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to this event. I love supporting libraries. And Stuntman Mike says hi. I know I told a lot of people that he was going to be here today, so he has to get his introduction. So I have always been an avid reader. And I was always in creative writing and like advanced English classes all through school, but I never.
Oh, hold on, Abby. We have no sound.
I don't know, you can't hear me or I can't hear you?
No, they can't hear us.
Oh, bummer.
Hold on. Let me see if Mike's picking up anything. That was unexpected.
Always expect the unexpected during these events.
Oh, Kim, can you hear us? I'm just going to wait and see if. Oh, okay. Sound is working. We're good. Sorry. So just to recap a little bit, I asked Abby when she decided to start writing and what made her decide that. So sorry, take it away, Abby.
So I was always an avid reader. I was always in creative writing in high school and like advanced English classes. And I loved to read, but I thought like being an author was something you had to like go to school for. Like you had to be a journalist first or something, or you had to have a blog, you know what I mean? I just was never something I thought I could do. And I never went to college or, pursued anything that had to do with writing. But I really love to read and I love stories and I absolutely love romance. Like that's always my favorite part of anything, a movie or a book or anything. I love the romance aspects. So a couple of years ago, I had this idea for this YA book. And I told it to my kids during a camping trip. We were like reined in, we were in our tents and, we had no cell service, nothing. And I said, you guys want to hear a story? And so I started telling them this story for this like dystopian YA novel that I had this idea for, and they loved it. And my oldest daughter was like, Mom, you should write it. So I went home from that trip and I started writing this YA book. And every day, like she'd come home from school and I'd read her a new chapter. And I wrote the whole thing. It was really terrible. Like it was so bad. And I ended up submitting this awful beast of a book. It was 300,000 words. And to give you guys an idea of how many words 300,000 words is, I have to show you this visual because it's so much. Okay, so here's all three of my books right now. And each one of these is a little under 100,000. So I wrote a book this big, a really bad book this big. Okay, so it was a lot. And I submitted it to a literary agent and she actually replied and was like, thank you for submitting this. I think you might benefit from having some critique partners. And so I was like, okay. So I went online and I found a critique site. And it's called Critique Circle, and it's where you submit your chapters and other people read and they critique them to help you improve your writing. And it's got all these resources like, how to query an agent, how to structure dialogue, how to build suspense in your book, just any sort of tip or resource for writing that you could possibly imagine is on this site. And I got on the site and I submitted the first few chapters of this awful book, and everybody on the site was like, this is awful. But they all said, that your dialogue is so good. Like you've got great dialogue. The story is awful, but you've got great dialogue. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to throw this book out, throw the whole thing out, and I'm going to start again. And I'm going to write a contemporary romance this time, like set in modern day. Stuntman is I put carrots on the end table. He's eating carrots. This is the only way I can get him to work, guys, is to offer him food incentives. So anyway, I started writing a contemporary romance where I didn't have to world build. You can't chew this. You're too small. You need me to break it for you. And I decided to focus really strongly on dialogue because I knew that that's what I was good at. So I was like, okay, maybe the characters are separated for some reason. And the bulk of their relationship is taking place via text and over the phone. So it's like very dialogue heavy. And that book was the Happy Ever After playlist. So I wrote that book while I was on Critique Circle, and I ran it through Critique Circle, and it was like beloved. Like everybody on the site was super excited about it. It was like really encouraging. It was like the number one most critiqued book on the site the whole 14 weeks that I ran it through. And so I decided to query it. And now this time, like I actually knew how to write a query, and I actually had a book that had been like, edited and like run through it, with critique partners, and that it was the kind of book you should query, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I queried it, and I queried my first big agent, which was Stacy. And I queried her after doing like a ton of research on agents, like, because they tell you whoever ends up being your agent, you're going to be like, this person's going to be stuck with you for a really long time. You're going to have a relationship with your agent for years and years and years, sometimes your entire writing career, ideally. So I really did my due diligence, and I found this agent that talked a lot about loving romance, comedy, and zombies. And I was like, perfect, because I love zombies. So I queried her, and I wrote this really sassy query letter where there was like a dick joke in it. And I ran it past my critique partners, and I was like, guys, what do you think of this query? And they were all like universally like, don't do it. It's not professional. Like, don't do it. And I was kind of like, well, if she can't handle me at my dick joke, then I don't know if she's the right agent for me. So I queried my agent with this query letter, and immediately, like within, I think it was like the next day, she replied back and asked for the next 30 pages of the book. And then within like a day, she asked for the full, and the rest is history. So I got my agent, and it was all sort of like this whirlwind thing, because like I still pinch myself. I'm like, I'm a what? I'm an author? Like, how is that possible? Like if I would have gone back 5 years and like told myself like, hey, you're going to have like 2 book deals with Hachette, and you're going to be a New York Times bestseller, I would have been like, what? What are you talking about? What? Like, did I write a cookbook or something? Like, I don't understand. So yeah, it's been a whirlwind.
Yeah, and it hasn't been that long since you debuted your first novel, right? It's just been a couple of years.
I started the Happy Ever After playlist in 2017. That's when I started writing the book, and we actually ended up publishing the Friend Zone first. So what happened is I wrote the Happy Ever After playlist, and then while we were in submissions, I decided to go back in time and write the Best Friend's love story, the best friend from the Happy Ever After playlist. So we ended up leading with the Friend Zone as my debut novel, because chronologically it came first, and that came out in 2019. So it's been not very long, and it's been an amazing ride. Honestly, I'm having so much fun. You can hear me eating carrots.
I can. What has been like the biggest difference moving from publishing your very first novel now to you're on the cusp of your 4th coming up soon-ish?
Yes. Oh man. I always joke that I should be like an advisor to like new authors, because I really went in, like I said, I had never aspired to be an author. I wasn't in like, I wasn't on author Twitter. I wasn't a part of that universe. I wasn't in like Romance Writers of America or like writing groups or anything. So I really went in sort of like not knowing what to expect or even how things work. And now I'm like a grizzled war veteran, like smoking a cigarette by a dumpster. I know everything. So there was a lot of things that like I didn't expect, and I didn't know. I was very green. And I think probably the biggest difference between then and now is like just being very selective of like the events that I do, and like where I didn't know if I could say no to things, in the very beginning. I felt like I had to say yes to like every single thing. And I got really burnt out really fast. I was doing like so many events, and like I was attending like the neighborhood book clubs, and it's like, those are super fun. But, after you've done like, a dozen of them in a month, it's like, okay, I think I need to like start to like really condense these, or, invite people to singular events, so that I'm reaching more people and I only have to be at one place instead of a dozen. So I think that's like probably the biggest change for me, is just learning how to balance like this new, what is basically a full-time career now. But yeah, I wish I could, if there's any baby authors out there that are just getting started and they need advice, hit me up because I'll tell you all the insider stuff.
That sounds like a great deal. Um, let's see. Oh, I should also mention that we'll be taking questions from the chat. So if you have a question for Abby, go ahead and post it in the chat and we will read it off and she will answer them. But on the tail end of what you were just saying, what has been like the most rewarding part of becoming a published author for you?
Oh, definitely writing things that speak to my readers. I always try and include, real life things in my books. Sort of what I'm known for is writing books that are funny, but that are also real, where these characters are experiencing real world issues. Like in the Friend Zone, the main character deals with infertility. The infertility story in that book is actually from start to finish my best friend's real life struggle with severe uterine fibroids. And then in the second book, Sloane is dealing with complicated grief, which is another thing that I went through with a friend of mine. My third book, Life's Too Short, is about a young woman who has familial ALS that runs in her family. And if you're not familiar with ALS, it is mostly a sporadic disease, but it can be hereditary and it is 100% fatal. There's very little funding for it. There's very little research going on with that disease. And it's heartbreaking. It's the disease from the Ice Bucket Challenge. If we all remember that from a few years ago. So I like to talk about things that I want to bring awareness to, or that I want to normalize, or that I want people to read the book and feel seen. In my fourth book that's coming out in April, it's this one, Part of Your World. This book deals with domestic violence, both emotional violence and physical violence. And, I really try and do my due diligence to make sure that I get these things right. I interviewed, trauma specialists and domestic violence advocates because I want someone to read this book and come out of it not only understanding the cycle of abuse, but understanding how to help somebody who's experiencing abuse. So I'd say that's the most rewarding part of what I do. I get these like messages. I probably cry like once a day because I get these very heartfelt messages where people let me know that they read something in my book and it changed something for them or made them feel seen. Or it brought them out of a depression or, whatever it is. I think that's definitely the best part of my job for sure.
That's amazing. Let's see. Yeah, those are some pretty heavy topics and pretty research dense as far as like ALS is concerned. Do you have to do I know you talked about interviews. Do you do a great deal of research then for your books?
Yes. So usually what I'll do is I'll independently research whatever I'm writing. I do a ton of research, whether it's like the job that my character is doing or even just like the city the book is placed in. I'm constantly researching. Funny story, but I don't know what I'm allowed to say in this library event, but in this book, there's a scene where the main character is taking like a certain sort of picture. And I had for like 2 hours, had to research how to take this special picture. Yeah. So sometimes the research is fun and sometimes the research is, serious, but I'll research it first so that when I write it, I'm trying to get it as close to right as possible. And then I will run the book through beta readers and I will select beta readers that are specific to whatever's in that book. So like for Part of Your World, I actually had a high risk OBGYN for one scene in this book. She read this to make sure that I got the terminology right, that I got the thing that happened correct in the book. And then of course, I had like a trauma specialist, a psychologist who specialized in trauma to read through this. I had several domestic violence advocates. I've talked to people that have experienced domestic violence because I want to get it right. I don't want the book to be harmful in any way. And I want to make sure that when people are reading it, it's accurate because I don't want anyone to be thrown out of the story going, wait, that's not how that happens. So yes, a ton of research goes into my books.
Really impressive. And I think that definitely comes across. Let's see. Talking about beta readers kind of reminds me, I had read in a previous interview of yours about sending out ARC copies, advanced reader copies, and having your readers pass them on to other readers, kind of like Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants there. Can you tell us a little bit about that scenario? Was that for your fourth book or your third book?
It started actually with my second book. So I get, this is an advanced copy. You can see the back is not, the final version. And it's got a little like do not duplicate thing on the front, not for sale. So authors get advanced reader copies and you usually only get about like 20. They don't give you a ton. And, I have this very, amazing reader group on Facebook, and there's 6,000 of them. And obviously I can only do so many giveaways if I only have 20 books. So I had this idea, what if I put my books into rotation in the group, like a library system almost. And they pass the book from one person to the next, and it gives more people an opportunity to read the books. We call it the Traveling ARC program, and it is super fun. Actually, a lot of other authors have started doing it after I started doing it. Forbes wrote about it, which was like so cool.
Hey.
But yeah, it usually ends up like, I think we started with like 6 books. We send 1 to Canada, and then we have 5 in the United States. And the objective is to get the books to all 50 states before publish date. And then once the books have gone to all 50 states, they can travel anywhere they want. And as the program has progressed, like we're learning more things as we go. We've added an extra book. So now we have 7 in rotation. We have 2 wild card books that can go anywhere, even to states that they've already been to. And the books, people started sending gifts with them. So like they would get the book and then they would like get a little package of tissues and like some chocolate and send that to the next reader. And then it started to get bigger where they would like find little things that were maybe mentioned in the book. Like I know for Part of Your World, there's a mention that Daniel uses like a cherry chapstick. So people are sending cherry chapsticks with Life's Too Short. People were sending sponges. If you read the book, you know why. People were sending sponges to each other. So it's turned into like this traveling gift box, basically. And it's just really fun. And people meet like friends in the group because, they're choosing who gets the book next, and they're meeting new people. And it's just like a really fun community in general.
That is so cute. I love that. And talking about that community and that fellowship of readers, what has the reception been from fans for your books, and what is your relationship like with your readers?
I am very, very active in my reader group in particular. And I would say reception has been good. I feel like I have like this little like book family, especially in my reader group. Like I'm super active in there. People get one-on-one, time with me. I chat back and forth with people. Honestly, and like, I'm not just saying this, my group is one of like the least toxic places on the internet. Like I love it in there. It is so just positive and everybody's just friendly and like there's no like bickering in the comments. Like it's just a really fabulous, like wonderful place to be. And I love that. I've got some admins that help me out to like, keep the tone of the group a certain way. And they do such a wonderful job. It's a good place.
That is rare on the internet. So
it's so rare.
I'm impressed. Let's see here. So we should probably talk a little bit about your most recent book, Life's Too Short. You've written about a workaholic lawyer and a free-spirited travel vlogger. How did you come up with those characters, and what made you decide on those types?
So the way that I write my characters is typically I decide who the woman is, and then I create the man that she needs. And that's who I write. But in this case, we actually met Adrian in Happy Ever After playlist. So I created Adrian first, and I wrote the woman that he needs. Adrian is a complete workaholic. As Vanessa says in the book, you have one day syndrome. He pretends that he'll always have one day, to do all the things that he puts off, one day to take the vacation, one day to do the fun thing. And Vanessa doesn't live her life like that because Vanessa doesn't know if she has this fatal disease. In Vanessa's family, all the women in her family are dead by 30. They've got a very particularly fast-moving strain of ALS that runs in her family. She can't do genetic testing to even see if she carries the gene because they haven't mapped the gene yet that causes this in her bloodline. So she's 28 and she's living her life like she's going to be dead by 30. And in the beginning of the book, Vanessa started to have early onset symptoms of ALS. So she meets this man who's a like total control freak. All he does is work. Everything for Adrian is deeply planned. He does not like spontaneity. He does not like changes to his plans. Like he's just very like, he's a planner, okay? And he's a workaholic. And he meets this woman who's just the complete opposite. She's like, live for the day, live for the now. Let's go do something fun, like fly by the seat of her pants. And that's really what he needed. Like he needed to learn how to live his life. It's like, I don't want to say it's like a grumpy sunshine trope because Adrian's not grumpy. But it is definitely like a really fun dynamic to watch and to see unfold. And Adrian has some abandonment issues because of his upbringing. And imagine a man with, abandonment issues falling in love with a woman who might die in the next year. Right. So, and it's like every time I talk about my books, it sounds so depressing. It's like, I promise guys, it's a rom-com. And, one thing about romance in general is the genre requirement is that there is a happy ever after or a happy for now at the end. So just know that no matter what happens in the book, you will be made whole at the end and everything will be okay. That's why I love romance so much, because it's like, that no matter what the author puts you through, it's going to be okay. And they're not going to do anything super awful to anyone.
It'll all be worth it by the end.
It'll be worth it. It's like a safe read, because you go on this journey. It's like being on a roller coaster. It's like you're going to be scared, but you're not going to actually get hurt. You're going to get off at the end. You're going to be fine. It's a very funny book. There's some really amazing side characters in this book. I love her brother Brent. He's just like, think David from Schitt's Creek. It's a fun book, and there's always a dog in my book. In my books. So Harry Poppins is the dog in this one. He is a geriatric rescue Chihuahua. He's got no teeth and he's just like senile and mean. So it's super fun.
Sounds lovely. We have a question from the chat. Abby, which is your favorite book of yours, or is it always the most recent?
I always say, like, you guys are going to kill me when I say this, but it's actually the book that I'm working on now, which is my 5th book. And like, here's the deal. Like, as I am getting better as an author, like as I am like, I'm getting better. Okay. Cause now I'm several years in, like I know how to write. I know how to structure these characters. I've figured out my process, and I'm just going to continue to write characters that are better and better and better because of this. And so truly, honestly, every book that I write is like my new favorite, but the hero in my 5th book is like the best cinnamon roll ever. Like, I just love him. Like, I love him so much. It's actually making it hard for me to start working on book 6 because I have to figure out how to beat the guy from book 5. Like, seriously, it's like, he's that great. The book that's coming out in April, which is Part of Your World, that's available for pre-order now, or ask for it at your local library, please. I love when people request my books at libraries. So this is the 4th book that's coming out, and the best friend in this book is the heroine in my 5th book, which is currently my favorite book. But you guys, this book is getting such great reviews. Like, everyone is saying it's my best work yet. I try to not look at reviews too much. Like, I'll just like go and I'll just look at like the 5-star reviews and like look at the rating, and then like I'm out, but it's very well received. I will tell you that. And I think you guys will really enjoy reading it.
As a follow-up question to that, there's another one from the chat. Can you tease us the name of the next book?
Book number 5 is called Just My Type. And it's called Just My Type because the hero is the kidney donor of the heroine's brother.
Ooh.
Yes. And it is an enemies to lovers, slow burn, forced proximity, one bed.
All the tropes.
All the tropes. All the tropes that you love. You guys, it's really good. Like, it's really good.
Let's see. I think we have another one. Okay, yep. Another question from the chat. I love the main characters and the dialogue in the friend zone. How do you write the fast-paced ping pong banter and dialogue that is so spot on? Do you listen to real conversations?
Um, Sometimes I'll take actual conversations that I have like in real life. Like actually a lot of the dialogue in the friend zone was like real conversations I've had with my husband because if you guys have read the friend zone, you know that Stuntman Mike, the dog in the book, is like my actual dog. Okay. So this is Stuntman Mike. And my husband, oh, I always joke with my husband and I'm like, Stuntman Mike's a hunting dog. And my husband's like, don't say that. That's like an affront to hunting dogs everywhere. So like these are real conversations that I've had. And I'll write it down. Sometimes, I'll like I was talking to my daughter the other day. We were talking about men. And I said something like dating these days is like playing Russian roulette and the gun is mostly loaded. And even when it's not, it's a blank. So you still like flinch when you pull the trigger. And we were like laughing so hard. I'm like, I'm going to put that in a book, because Brienne is like Brienne and just my type is a very like jaded, bitter, like she's getting divorced. Her husband cheated with their friend. Like she's just like hates men. And of course, I had to write the man that she needs. So Jacob is just totally like this. You are just going to melt. Like imagine a woman that is like that hurt. Okay. The man that's going to like thaw that woman out, right? Like he's going to have to be super special, and he is. But anyway, like I'll just take like real conversations and I'll jot it down, and maybe I won't use it for that book, but maybe I'll use it for like another book in the future. And then the other thing, like if you're a writer and you're trying to figure out like how to write ping pongy dialogue, write the dialogue first and then add in the action beats, and like the he said, she said stuff, add that in later. Okay. So just write the dialogue and always write the way you speak. That's how you get natural dialogue. Write the way you actually talk. Like if there's words that you don't normally use, don't use that in dialogue. Think about how you speak to somebody. You say things like, or like, or, you say, or, you pause, like think about those little nuanced ways that you speak naturally and then put that in your dialogue and it'll feel like natural dialogue.
It's great advice. I love that. And I've got two more. Oh, wait. Okay. There's another question from the chat. Real quick though, I've gotta ask, where did the name Stuntman Mike come from?
So there's a Quentin Tarantino movie called Death Proof, and Kurt Russell plays a character named Stuntman Mike. And we just thought that was like a really funny name. So we call him Michael, we call him Stuntman. He's getting groomed tomorrow. He's so shaggy right now. Yeah, it comes from a Quentin Tarantino movie. And that's why in the book, in the friend zone, Kristen and Josh really like Quentin Tarantino. I wanted to write a dog into the book. And I was like, well, I have this really, I have this dog that's like this great character. He's got so much personality. He's got this really funny name. So I wrote my actual dog into the book and then therefore made it so that these two characters liked Quentin Tarantino and loved the movie Death Proof. Because it just makes sense because their dog is named after a character. So, like I'll do things like that. Like a character will like something because of another reason.
It's so cute. Another question from the chat. Would you ever consider a fictional book about your Food Network Challenge experience?
Oh man. I have definitely thought about writing like at least a book with like a reality TV premise because I could definitely write that book. But to be honest with you, that like being on those shows is so stressful. Like I kind of don't want to relive it. Like I really don't. Like it's real. Like those competitions are real. The clock doesn't stop for anything. You're absolutely exhausted. You're super stressed out. Like it is a real competition. And I don't know that I even want, like, I don't know that I'd want to write about it because it would just be, I'd be like stressed the whole time. But I did have another idea for like a cute reality TV based book that might happen one day.
Very cool. And we've kind of talked about tropes a bit here and there. So I want to ask, where is my question? Oh, yeah. So a lot of readers, especially in the romance genre, will choose their books based on specific tropes or scenarios that are in it. Do you have any favorite tropes to write?
enemies to lovers. But like, okay, here's the challenge that I come into. I love enemies to lovers. That's probably my absolute favorite. But you've got to make it believable that they're actually enemies. Okay. Like they actually hate each other, which I think is very hard to do realistically. And then you've got to make us believe that they somehow have gotten over that. Right. And that's my challenge is because like I write these cinnamon roll men. That's like my brand. Okay. My guys they're sweet. They're not jerks. They're not alpha males. They're not. So I have a really hard time writing enemies to lovers myself because how would I possibly write a man that she would hate, okay, if he's not a jerk, like if he's not actually a jerk. And I totally pulled it off in just my type because of reasons, but I can't tell you because then I'll just like spoil part of the plot. But that's why most of my books are friends to lovers because I'm writing cinnamon rolls. So by default, these are nice guys. These guys aren't rude. These guys aren't, somebody that the woman's not going to like on sight. But that's my favorite trope personally. I can also tell you the most hated trope, which is the love triangle trope. My editor, like, if anything is even remotely love triangle-y, she's like, you must change it. Like it's do love triangle-y. Actually, in the beginning, when I was first working on Life's Too Short, Adrian was going to have a girlfriend that sort of ghosted him for most of the book. And it was too love triangle-y. Mm-hmm. Had to take it out. So that's the least favorite for everyone.
Yeah, I feel that. Let's see. Let's see. We really haven't talked about, you mentioned your Food Network days a little bit, and we don't have to go super into that, but you own a bakery with 3 locations, correct?
Yes.
What does your day-to-day look like between that and being a writer?
It varies a lot. There's times where I'm like super, super busy with the author stuff. And then there's times where I'm like super, super busy with the bakery stuff. I started Nadia Cakes out of my home kitchen 14 years ago. I had 3 little babies in diapers, all under the age of, I had a newborn, a 1-year-old, and a 2-year-old. Yeah. And then I had a full-time cake business and I did so many cakes that it literally takes 4 full-time employees in my bakeries to do what I used to do by myself. Wow. With all these little kids running around. And I did that out of my house for 2 years and then opened up an actual like retail location. And we did that by charging the whole opening $125,000 on our credit cards. And if you guys have TikTok, there's like a TikTok that I made like maybe 2 weeks ago and it says like my story. So just go and just click. That's like the, 3-minute recap of like, the Nadia Cake story and how we got started. But yeah, I've been on several shows. We were on Fabulous Cakes on TLC for 2 seasons. I was on Cupcake Wars twice. I won Cupcake Wars. And then we have an employee that works for us, Erin Campbell, who's been with us 10 years in January. And Erin Campbell, you might have seen her as the champion of the Holiday Baking Championship. And she was also a top 5 finalist on Next Food Network Star. So we've got some really like amazing people that work for us. And because we have amazing people, I'm able to be mostly administrative at this point. So my husband does like my husband does all the stuff I don't like to do. My husband does like the insurance, the permits. He pays all the bills for the shops. He does like all of like the behind the scenes, like business ownery type stuff. And then I do all of the creative stuff. So I'll write the menus for the shop. I manage all the social media. Like just tonight I posted a TikTok for the Nadia Cakes TikTok page. So there's days where like, I'm super, super busy. So like today, for example, like, let's just talk about like what I did today. Today I went over to Nadia Cakes in Maple Grove and I took a bunch of footage for TikTok videos that I'm going to make and like leave in drafts so that I can post them periodically over the next couple of days. And then I sampled a bunch of new products that they made. We've got these really cool like hot chocolate bombs that they're making that I'm going to do a video for in a day or 2. Then I came home and I'm doing this. And like all day I was marketing this. So, I'm posting on social media to let people know that I have this event tonight. I'm hosting book giveaways. So it's like, I'm like very busy and it's like a lot of like little things. I went to the post office to mail an advanced reader copy of Part of Your World out to somebody. So yeah, that's just like my day today. there'll be another day where I'll sit on the sofa for 8 whole hours and just do nothing but like write the Nadia Cakes menu on the website for the next 6 months, or there'll be a day where I'm writing all day. I'm writing 12 hours, so it just depends. Like it ebbs and flows.
If you feel like you've already answered this, then feel free to say so. But we've got another question from the chat. Abby, you are an amazing person. How do you balance being a wife, mother, business owner, and author? I'm exhausted thinking about it.
I'm exhausted doing it. I was telling my husband, I'm like, like I was actually just telling him this yesterday. I said, we have too many things. Like we've got 3 bakeries, we've got like 50 employees, we've got 3 kids, we have 4 dogs. One of my dogs, I had to take her to the vet today because she's like pooping everywhere because she's got a UTI and like a tapeworm. Like, how did she get a tapeworm? Like, she doesn't go anywhere, So I'm just very, very, very busy. It's like, I'm constantly doing something. I'm constantly on the move. I'm constantly doing something. And I don't know, like, I guess I'm just used to it. I guess that's the answer to the question. Like, that's how I do it. I've got a lot of really great people that work for me at Nadia Cakes that make a lot of, that stuff happen. So I don't have to be like micromanaging over there or super involved with the day-to-day operations. But I don't know. I'm just busy every day, like every minute of every day, just like constantly going.
That is a lot. And you're working on a 5th book at the same time. How quickly do you write those? Because it sounds like you're working on both number 5 and number 6 simultaneously.
Yeah. So number 5, Just My Type, is completely written. It's like fully written. It's my longest book yet. And right now it's with beta readers. So my editor has already read it, given me her notes. I've made the edits that she's requested, and right now it's with beta readers. That book technically is not even due until January 15th, and that book is not going to come out until 2023. So you'll start to see advanced copies of that book probably around August of next year. But they're already working on the cover art for it. They're already working on the back copy, and it's like in edits right now, basically. So that book is with beta readers, and right now I am thinking about book 6. I have the premise. My editor absolutely loved the premise of book 6. And a lot of my process is just thinking, like not actually writing anything, just thinking. Like I don't start to write until I mentally know my characters so well that I can just like sit. It doesn't even feel like I'm making things up. It feels like I'm sitting down and I'm just telling a story that someone has told to me. I'm just relaying what happened to you guys. That's how it feels by the time I sit down and I start to write. So right now, I'm just sort of like mulling over the final details of like who these characters are for book 6. I've written like a couple little segments, like I've written a couple of interactions with some of the characters that I know for sure I want to be in the book, but I haven't started sitting down like actually writing book 6 yet. And that book is not going to be due until January of 2023. So I'm way ahead. In terms of like how long it takes me to write a book, I wrote The Friend Zone in 3 months. I wrote Part of Your World in 2.5 months. I mean, and that was a pretty comfortable pace for me, but you have to remember that like by the time I sit down to write this, I know this book inside and out. And really what I end up putting down almost doesn't even change very much because I just know the characters so well. And then, usually when I start writing, my editor's like, I've given her a synopsis. She knows exactly what's going to happen. So I'm putting on paper what we've already discussed. And so I'm probably not going to have to change too much after the fact. But yeah, I guess if there was like, if I was truly being timed, I could write a book in 2 months, but I could definitely not pull off more than 1 book a year and keep the quality of the books that I've been giving you guys, just because I have so many other things that I'm doing. And, I really do put a lot of thought and effort into writing my books, research and beta readers and edits and fine tuning and just like thinking about what is going to be in that story. And if I was like, if I was having to write like 3 or 4 books a year, they wouldn't be as good. Like straight up, just would not be as good.
That is a really incredible writing pace. Wow. And then we've got a couple more questions from the chat as well. This first one ties into something I wanted to ask you as well. We've heard rumors of a movie. I believe that's referring to the Happy Ever After playlist. Is there anything you can tell us about that?
So the Happy Ever After playlist has been picked up by Throughline Entertainment. So if you guys have seen the show The Great on Hulu, that was produced by Throughline Entertainment. So it's like a very big, like very well known, very reputable production company. Marisa Coughlin has signed on to do the screenplay, and director Gail Mancuso has signed on to be the director of the book. She read it, absolutely loved the book. And there's a lot of like hurry up and wait. So when they first signed the book, when they first acquired it, it was like right at the start of the pandemic, and Hollywood was at like a complete standstill. Right. Now things are starting to get moving again, but Gail is currently filming something else, and all of the meetings that have to take place for the Happy Ever After playlist, Gail has to be at those meetings, and she can't be at those meetings because she's currently filming something else. So right now they've got the deck all written out, which is like, the sales pitch basically for the movie. And as soon as Gail is available, they're going to start pitching this. And what they're trying to do is they create like a little package, okay, where they maybe have like an actor, like a big name actor that's signed on to do the movie, and they have the director and they have the screenwriter. So all they have to do is go to these networks like Netflix and say, hey, look at this. All you have to do is sign on the line. It's a package. It's all ready for you. So that's kind of what they're doing right now. And we actually just renewed. So Throughline, we sign a contract with Throughline in which we say, you guys have the rights to this book. And they actually just renewed that again in October because they're still working on it. So right now, that's where we're at. And this is the thing that I always say. I say this like every time we talk about the movie. The thing with all of this, like the author stuff, the movie stuff, the book stuff, the bestseller stuff, like I came into this with literally zero expectations. Like everything that happens to me, all of these good, amazing things that happen to me, I'm just like floored and like wowed. Like there's no goal for me. Like I didn't come into this like it was my lifelong dream to be like a New York Times bestseller, So it's like, I don't want to say the stakes are not high, because they are. And I'm always super excited when these things happen. But it's like when they happen, I just feel nothing but like happiness and joy that they're happening. I never feel disappointed that they don't, because like it was never my goal to begin with. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So like if the movie thing happens, that would be amazing. And I will be like so freaking excited, and mostly just like looking around like, what? Like I feel like so much of my life is me just looking around going, what? Like that happened to me? Like I can't believe this is like my life. Even when I started Nadia Cakes, I started Nadia Cakes much in the same way that I started writing. All of a sudden I was like this baker, and I didn't go to culinary school. I never worked in a bakery. I never worked as like in any sort of food preparation industry at all. And it was like, all of a sudden I'm a cake decorator. And if you would have told me like a year before, you're going to be a cake decorator, I've been like, what? Like, what? Because it was never something I did. I wasn't even like particularly artistic or anything. And that's how I feel about the writing. It's like I was never, I liked it, but if you would have told me you're going to be a best-selling author again, I would have been like, what? So if this does end up getting made into a movie, I think I'm just going to be like, what? Like what? It's just I'm just constantly just shocked and like appreciative and just sort of like wandering around like, I can't believe this is all happening. So yeah, so that's my disclaimer. If it does happen, fabulous. If it doesn't happen, and a lot of times these things, you only need one thing to go wrong for it to be derailed. You need 100 things for it to go right for it to happen, so I'd like to manage all of your expectations in that way, but it's looking pretty good right now. I will tell you that.
All right. And we've got a couple more questions to catch up with. Let's see. Who is your favorite character that you've written about?
I really like Alexis from Part of Your World. That whole book in general, sometimes I can't believe this stuff comes out of my brain, that book it's got like a lot of like subtle, like magic realism in it. I absolutely love the backstory that I created for both Alexis and Daniel. And she's just this amazingly strong woman. She's just so likable, and she's just so vulnerable, and her growth in the book is so great. Like I'd have to say probably her. I think she's my favorite right now.
Well, that's something for the rest of us to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be exciting. Let's see. got a couple more questions here too. I will go in order. Do you get requests from friends or fans to write about certain topics in your books?
Yes, sometimes. I'll get people that'll like, have you ever thought about writing about this? Um, it's so hard to like pluck an issue out of the air, you know what I mean? And like write about it. Like I feel like I have to know my characters first and then figure out like, what is their side story and like how did it make them the way that they are. But yeah, people do ask me that. I just don't know that I can do it. I guess this like the answer.
Okay. Let's see. Next one. Which couple has your favorite love story?
Gosh, that is so hard. Um, that is like really hard because they all have really amazing love stories. Like Kristen and Josh were just like meant for each other. Like those two were just like you could just feel the chemistry just coming off the pages with those two. And then Sloan and Jason, it's like it's just this really cool like premise, like where you meet your favorite musician and he's like actually this like really normal guy. And he's just down to earth and you just like, and he's just so sweet and he pulls her out of like this depression that she's in. Like, oh, I just love that. And then Adrian and Vanessa are just so much fun. Like she is just so much fun on the page, and I don't know, it's like so hard. I would say the most unbelievable couple is Daniel and Alexis. And what's awesome about that is when you guys read that book, like it works. Like they just work. Like on paper, you would not think that this couple would work. I mean, he's 28 years old, never went to college, small town boy, never left his little tiny town of, population 300. And then she's this 37-year-old, incredibly educated doctor from a very wealthy, very prestigious family, like completely different backgrounds. And you would not think that these two would make this like perfect couple. And they just do. Like they do. It's so good. And like, I could picture them like even today, like, I could picture them like 10 years from now, 15 years from now, like who they are together. And like, it's just, oh, you guys, it's so good. Like, it's just really, like, I hate to say it, like, it's really well done, because like I wrote it and that feels so vain. But it is just really well done. Like I've taken these two characters that really shouldn't work and they really do. So, I mean, I guess that's probably, we could say that's my favorite love story just because it's the most unlikely and it just works.
Alrighty. Next question. Let's see. Hi, Abby. Love your books and Stuntman Mike. As an author who knows so much about the nitty-gritty of book writing and publishing, do you still enjoy writing?
I do. I very much enjoy writing. And that's another thing. So when I started making cakes, I loved cakes. Okay. It was super fun for me. I started by taking some cake decorating classes at Michael's because I always liked to bake and I always, wanted to learn how to decorate cakes. So I started that going into it with like a passion. It was something I loved. And after 2 years doing that out of my house, basically like having to take more orders than was reasonable for anybody because I needed to pay the bills. And doing that with 3 little kids around, like I completely lost my passion for cake decorating and it never came back. Never. I thought like, oh, maybe if I take a break, 2 or 3 years or whatever, I never got that back. So I am very conscious of not doing that with writing. That's why, I told my agent, I only want to do 1 book a year. 1 a year, because the second this becomes not fun, I'm afraid I'll never get it back. Like I'll never want to do it again. And I am very much having fun. And you can tell, like when you read my books, you can tell that I'm having a good time, and that I did my due diligence and that I love these characters and I enjoy spending time with them. Because if I'm bored, you guys will be bored. But yeah, I very much love it. It is truly my passion. I'm very lucky. I get to do these things that I like to do so much. Oh, wait. I just saw the very tail end of that and it said, do you still enjoy reading?
Reading. Oh, I read writing.
But you know what? I still like my answer. And yes, I do enjoy reading, but I am like a romance snob now. Like it's sort of sad. Like I love romance so much, but now that I write it, like I I just am very judgmental. I'm like a very judgmental romance reader. So if I tell you guys in the group, like, I loved this romance, go get it, because I don't say that a lot. I actually find myself reading a lot of historic nonfiction because I find like it's a good palate cleanser for me. Like if I've read something I don't care, it's like you can't get mad when it's historic nonfiction because it happened. Like you can't get mad at the plot. You know what I mean? That happened. This wasn't somebody's like creative choice. So I really enjoy, reading historic nonfiction. I've read and I like books about disasters. So I read like The Circus Fire. I actually wrote some of this into Part of Your World. I read like The Circus Fire, read about the Great Molasses Flood. I've, read all the books about like, the Spanish influenza. I can't remember the book. It's by John something. Anyway, I read a bunch of like very like natural disaster type nonfiction books. I don't know why that's like the stuff I like to read. I also read the Project Hail Mary.
Yeah.
We really liked that. And I typically read audiobooks, which is why it's very difficult to get a blurb out of me. And I think my editor just like wants to shake me because she's like, people want blurbs. And I'm like, I know, but I don't like to read paper books. Like I'm so busy. If I do an audiobook, then I can like cook, I can do laundry, I can take my dog for a walk, I can walk on my treadmill. There's so many things that I can get done. If I'm forced to just sit and like read a book, I'm like only doing that. And it's like not stimulating enough for me. So I mostly do audiobooks. Unfortunately, when I'm asked to do a blurb, there's like usually not the audio. It's not ready yet.
Right.
We only have a little paperback or like an e-edition. So anyway, that's my story. I do read. I did just read The Four Winds.
Oh yeah.
I read that. And then I read The Nightingale after that. So I very much enjoyed those. But yeah, I'll probably do like maybe like 2 books a month on audiobook.
Okay. Let's see. Okay. Another question from the chat. Do your kids read your books? Some of the subjects are a bit steamy, but I imagine they're proud of you for what you've accomplished.
So Nadia, who is my 15-year-old, she's an avid reader. She reminds me a lot of myself actually when I was that age. And she has read my books, all of them, but I take Post-its and I like put it like on the sex scene pages. And I'm like, you can't read those pages. So yes, she's read them. Naomi, who's my 17-year-old, I'll usually like read a chapter to her, a chapter here or there. So she kind of like absorbs it, like little bits at a time. And same thing with my husband. But I'd say the only one who sits down and like actually reads my books from start to finish is Nadia. She's the only one.
Okay. That's cool. Another question from the chat. How did you come up with the ARC program? I've yet to be a lucky winner, but it's genius.
So I got the idea when a book blogger that won a copy of one of my books decided to share the advanced copy with like her tight-knit group of reader friends. And she sent it around to like 7 different people. And I was like, what an awesome way to get a ton of mileage off of one book. You know what I mean? Like there was one book and she gave it to 7 people. And so I thought we could do that in my group. Like we could hand these around and more people could read it. And instead of me, doing 20 giveaways and only 20 people get a book, each book maybe has 15 readers. So that's how we started it. And what's really cool about it is people write little notes for me in the pages. And then at the end of the program, I get all the books back and I keep them as keepsakes. So that's fun too.
Really sweet. Do they all come back? All the books?
We have never lost a book. Whenever we start the Traveling ARC program, I always have a body double for each book. So in case something happens, I can send out a replacement book. I have only had to send out 1 replacement book because one of the books in the Traveling ARC program, like these are they're not bound very well. They're not like heavy, they're not meant for like library reading. Okay. So they do tend to fall apart. One was really falling apart and it was like the spine was coming apart. So I did throw in a body double and replaced one of them. That's the only time it's ever happened. We have never lost a book. We have never had somebody steal a book. Everybody's always very respectful. And at this point we've had like over probably 250 readers in the Traveling ARC program. So that's pretty impressive.
That is extremely impressive. And kind of on the related to them leaving you notes in the books, do you have any funny fan interactions?
Um, okay, so yesterday, I went into Barnes and Noble. Okay, I guess like the general funny fan reaction is like when people like fangirl when they meet me, and I'm just like, please don't do that. Like it freaks me out because I don't feel like I'm that like special really. Like I'm just so awkward, honestly. Like in person, I'm very, very introverted. Um, and like I feel like when people meet me, I feel like I have a lot of awkward pauses and like I don't ever really know what to say. And like yesterday I went into Barnes and Noble to go sign to see if they had copies, and I didn't call them in advance, and I just came in, and like one of the girl that I walked up to, I was like, hi, do you have any books by Abby Jimenez? And then she like stopped, and like her eyes got big, and I like pulled my mask down. I was like, I'm the author. I was going to sign him. And she was like, oh my God. She's like, I'm fangirling right now. I'm like, oh God, please don't fangirl right now. I'm like, it's like, you're making me nervous. Like, oh my God. So that's probably like, the most interesting fan interaction I get. It's just like, I don't know. Like, honestly, I'm not that cool. Like I'm really like, I'm just very awkward and like, just very introverted. And like, it again, like, how I say, like I wander around and I'm always just like in awe of what's happening. Like what? Like, again, people are that excited to meet me. What? Like, I'm just so like, I'm not cool, just kind of nerdy. My kids know. So that's probably my fan interaction.
I love that. I love that. That's so cute. Okay, we're all caught up with the chat questions. Keep them coming if you have them. Let's see. Just want to see what else we've got here. Talked about the movie. Oh, hey. Okay. Who are some writers that you admire? Because we talked about what you've been reading lately.
I really, really love Emily Henry. I love her. First of all, I say that I'm like a big romance snob, okay? When I tell you that People We Meet on Vacation is literally the closest perfect book that I have ever read, you got like, I'm not even joking. Like when I say that, like that is like my chef's kiss romance novel. She did such a good job with that book. I absolutely loved it. It was actually just voted the Goodreads Reader's Choice of the Year. Okay. And I voted for that book. Okay. Cause like, that's how good it is. But I like her as a person as well. She does a lot of things in her writing that, most readers probably don't even notice, but I notice because these are things that I strive to do in my own writing. So one of the things is taking out, this is like a new thing for me. And you will notice this in Part of Your World, and you will notice this in pretty much probably all my books going forward, is I'm taking out mental health stigmatizing words like crazy, insane, words like, oh my gosh, she's so bipolar. Okay. Things like that. I'm really working to take those words out of my books because I don't think we should stigmatize mental health. And she does that in her books. If you search any of those words in People We Meet on Vacation, you will not find them. She also doesn't really drop any F-bombs or anything in any of her books. She doesn't use ableist words either, like stupid, dumb, things like that. And I know like most people, that's part of our day-to-day vernacular. And most people probably read those books and they don't even notice. But I love that she's making that effort to destigmatize mental health, that she's making that effort to not use ableist words in her books, like to do less harm, I guess is what I'm saying. I love that about her. So it's like, these are things that you guys, like I said, probably don't even notice. She's also very giving of her time. Like on Instagram, she's always willing to help people that have publishing questions. She's a really great follow on Instagram. I don't even know how she gets the time to like respond to this many Instagram stories. But she's very interactive. She's very giving of her time. She's very supportive of other authors. And I love that about her. And like, again, you probably wouldn't even notice those things, but I notice them, and I love that she does them. Go read People We Meet on Vacation because that's a very good book.
I feel guilty. I've had that sitting at home on my shelf and I haven't gotten to it yet. I'll have to prioritize it.
And the audiobook is fabulous. Julia Whelan is the one who narrated that, and she's actually going to be narrating Part of Your World for me. Okay. And very, very good. Like sometimes I'll listen to a book on audio and then I'll also read it. and the tone is just totally different. Like I actually have to wonder how many books have I read on audio and it was completely different on the written page because of the way that the audio was delivered. And that is one book that I can tell you whether you read it like on a paperback or an ebook, or if you listen, it is the same tone. Like they did a very good job with the audiobook. So that's an excellent book to get on audio.
Yeah, the narrator can really make or break it. Um, Another question from the chat. Do you go to writing or fan conferences and meet other authors and fans?
Um, well, I haven't really gone anywhere for the last 2 years, but in theory, I would. When I first came out as an author, they sent me on a book tour and I went to BookCon. I did a bunch of signing events and fingers crossed for Part of Your World, they are planning for an in-person book tour for me. I think it's like 5 different states. I don't even like want to tell you guys where I'm going to be. It's like major cities, basically. But they are going to send me on an in-person book tour. I'm going to have a launch party at a really cool venue. Like, fingers crossed again that things aren't derailed. But yes, I do in-person events. I don't really go to like writing workshops or anything like that. And when I go, I don't really go to like meet other authors. I go to meet my readers and then meet other authors like by default. And I've met some very cool authors that way. Like I've, met Pharaoh Sean in person, Tessa Bailey. So when I was like a baby author and I don't even think that my book was out yet. It was like the Friend Zone was coming out in like a week. And I was at BookCon and Tessa Bailey, I'll never forget this. We were on a panel together and I was like so nervous. And I was like, any tips? And she's like, yeah. Sometimes when you're up on stage, like they just put you in these like chairs, and sometimes there's no table or anything. It's just like chairs, and you have like a microphone. She's like, and the audience just gets like a clear shot right up your crotch. She's like, so wear a long skirt or pants. And I was like, I would never have thought of it. Okay, so thank you, Tessa. Because I like you're wearing a dress, you're in heels, you're cute, and they were like, why is there no table? So anyway, that's my like memory of Tessa Bailey. I've met Helena Hunting. I've gotten to meet some really really cool authors.
That sounds amazing. Let's see, we're getting to the end of our time here, so I'm just if anybody has any more questions for Abby, please post them in the chat. But just for fun, what's one thing you wish more people knew about you or your work?
Oh gosh, I feel like I'm so like vocal about my writing. Okay, and probably everybody in here knows this, but maybe people watching at the library don't know this. I write my books with my thumbs on my cell phone. I write the bulk of my books like this. Because when I'm on my cell phone, I can write anywhere. I can write in line at the grocery store. I can go for a walk and I can be writing. I could be on my treadmill. I only sit down and open my laptop when I have like big edits or like I really need to crank out, like, I'm just going to like bust out 5,000 words or something. So yeah, I write on my cell phone. Yeah.
That is very unique. Looks like probably one last question here from the chat. What is the one book that influenced you growing up?
I could tell you that I read like all of the Piers Anthony Xanth novels, like all of them. I have to say, like those novels probably really inspired my love of reading. I mean, I absolutely love them. I would go to used bookstores to try and get all the different editions. I loved it. Now I was like looking back on those books, they're so problematic. They're like written in the 80s and it's like very like misogynistic and like they're a mess. But I would say that made a very big impact on me as a reader and probably launched my love of reading. I was like 9 reading those books. Why did my parents let me read those books? They were a little inappropriate.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. Okay. So let's see, we are at 7:30. So I'm just going to give it a couple of minutes, see if anybody has any last minute questions. If you do, type them into the chat. But let's see, since we're coming up on the end of the current year, at the beginning of the new one, why don't you, it looks like probably close us out with what was the best thing that happened in your life this year? And do you have any resolutions or hopes for the new one?
Well, I became a New York Times bestselling author this year. So that was the best thing that happened this year. And thank you to all my readers because you guys were the ones that made that happen. For next year, I just really hope that I get to go on in-person book tour. I don't really make like New Year's resolutions. I just try and like live my life like in a way that is hopeful. And like, I always try and have something to look forward to so that I'm, always have something to look forward to. But yeah, I just really hope that I get an in-person book tour. That's the thing that I'm looking forward to next year. So that I get to go and I get to meet all my readers in person.
We also hope you get an in-person book tour. One last question. How many more books do you have planned?
I've got 2 3-book deals. So you guys are getting at least 6. But I'm planning on keeping writing. So, I mean, right now I've got book deals taking me all the way until 2024. So, I mean, even if I just stopped at the 6, you're getting a book until 2024. But I'm not going to stop at the 6. I'm going to keep going.
We always love to hear that.
No ending.
And just kind of a follow-up to that, is part of your world coming out in hardcover?
It is. It is coming out in a library hardcover, just like Life's Too Short did. And, of course, all the other formats.
All righty. Well, we will be looking forward to that. I know I am. We are, I believe, at the end of our time tonight. So I just want to thank you so much for joining us, Abby. This has been an absolute pleasure to chat with you. And I hope you've had as good a time chatting with us as we have with you. And we wish you the best of luck with your future endeavors and the launch of your next book, Part of Your World. If you want to know more about Abby and her books, please visit her website at www.authorabbyjimenez.com. And you are on Twitter and TikTok as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we can find her there. If you'd like to give her books a read, Chapter 2 Books is here at the library in the lower level selling signed copies. We also have them here at the library for checkout. I'm sure other people's local libraries also have them for checkout. I would also just like to mention some upcoming events. On Sunday, December 12th from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m., there will be a tribute to John Lennon and the Beatles event, which will be hosted by Thomas R. Smith and friends. And the event will be held in the lower level of the library. For more information about upcoming events here at the library, visit our website at riverfallspubliclibrary.org and click on Library Events. Please join us for future events. Your viewership and support means a lot for the continuation of these programs. Everybody have a wonderful evening. And Abby, thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Thanks for having me. Bye, guys. Good night.
Bye.